Peru's Interior Minister announced the launch of an investigation into the illegal use of firearms by police after the deaths of 2 protesters. The campaign ahead of Ecuador's February 2021 general elections has begun. After 13 years, the United Nations African Union Peacekeeping mission in the Sudanese region of Darfur is set to end on Thursday. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Peru, where at least 2 people have been killed and 43 injured in violent police repression against protesting agricultural workers. The Peruvian Ombudsman's office reported the killing of 2 people by police who attacked rural workers protesting in Peru province in rejection of the new agricultural legislation approved by Congress on December 29th. The 2 victims included a 16-year-old boy who was shot. Interior Minister José Elisi condemned the violent events in the region and announced that the illegal use of firearms by the police against protesters would be investigated.
A special work team of the National Police Inspectorate of Peru was formed and sent to Trujillo to carry out an in-depth investigation into the incident.
And the Peruvian Interior Minister announced the dismissal of the regional police chief following the deaths of the protesters.
It has already been decided to remove the Trujillo regional police chief. He will be replaced today, and the future of some other officers who have been leading the operations will be defined, which is precisely the proposal of this commission that will undertake this task of investigating whether each individual has fulfilled their obligations in carrying out the operation.
Cuba will see a major reform of its salary system from January 1st as the country eliminates its dual currency system and seeks to encourage increased productivity in order to boost the economy. Minister of Labour and Social Security, Marta Elena Feito, explained the fundamental aspects of the transformations ahead.
Many people think that yes, that it was the right time, and that was the moment the country had to transform itself economically, based on the very objective that had been proposed in the strategy, and that it was an adequate moment to implement the task of restructuring the economy. And an important aspect is talk about the need for people to work with motivation. And there are many opinions that say, now people are really going to have to work. Now there will be motivation to work. And naturally, all that motivation to work, all that growth in productivity, all that will establish the economic growth that the country needs. And naturally, as the country grows, as the country develops, the quality of life of all of us will be important, and within these dynamic salaries play a fundamental role.
Likewise, the head of the Commission for the Implementation of Cuba's Economic and Social Policy Guidelines, Marina Morillo, offered an extensive explanation of the importance and magnitude of the wage reform as part of the overall strategy of the restructuring of the economy, and referred to the dynamic relationship between wages and prices.
Incomes, and you don't have the corresponding increase in supply, you can't think that there will be more people willing to pay 50 pesos per pound of rice and that it will stay at 50 pesos. That is, if you increase the solvent demand, we will have the rice issue once again, and we are going to have the phenomenon in the economy in the coming months, which is what is being discussed regarding the battle against speculative and abusive prices. But we have to make decisions to seek certain macroeconomic balances, which is happening, because if not, it is not true that you can improve the purchasing power of that salary that you increased.
And the member of the Communist Party of Cuba's political bureau also noted that this will not be the only salary adjustment, but that there will be systematic evaluations to guarantee a fair income to improve the quality of life of all Cubans.
So that the people understand that we are working on the basis of a wage fund of 139 billion, that there are still doubts, misunderstandings, and that we are aware that this is the case, but that at this time there is no solution. And what I can say is that regarding all that has been said, this is not the first wage reform. Let's try to ensure that everything we have done is backed by wealth production and future wage reforms and assessments that will have to be conducted, and this will continue to be adjusted.
Bolivian President Luis Arce welcomed the delivery of 40,000 rapid COVID-19 test kits from US Abbott Laboratories this Thursday, noting the hope that more asymptomatic cases can be detected in the country a day after signing an agreement with Russia for the purchase of over 5 million doses of the Sputnik V vaccine.
These test kits, also because of the number of them that we are purchasing, will allow us to identify all these patients, the Bolivian brothers who have the virus, and therefore take the necessary actions. We have seen that Colombia, Guatemala, and other countries are using these so-called nasal antigen tests, which, as the Vice Minister explained, also involve a swab in the nose in order to take the sample. To be able to detect COVID-19 almost immediately, as mentioned by the Vice Minister, and especially those who are asymptomatic. We are happy to receive these 40,000 rapid test kits, which will be distributed primarily in the departments of Santa Cruz and La Paz. And we are going to receive another 1,668,000 test kits later on, and by January the 10th, we should be receiving the vaccines, plus the purchase of around 550,000 PCR kits.
And we invite our viewers to watch an exclusive interview with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro speaking to Spanish journalist Ignacio Ramonet. The interview will be broadcast this Friday, January 1st at 7 p.m. in Cuba and Ecuador, 8 p.m. in Venezuela and 9 p.m. in Argentina. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away.
teleSUR English presents a weekly program to discuss the political, economic and social issues affecting the Caribbean community. We'll challenge stereotypes and unpack the diversity of the region through the analysis of unique cultures, religions and art. We Caribbean. Wednesdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. The campaign ahead of Ecuador's February 2021 general elections has begun. As part of the campaign, the National Electoral Council is disseminating audio-visual content to encourage participation in the vote. Meanwhile, political organisations have expressed uncertainty as the electoral body has not yet made a decision on the participation of the social justice movement's presidential running mates. During this stage, which will extend until February 5th, the candidates for public office will be able to carry out caravans and rallies, but with limitations to avoid the spread of the coronavirus. Human rights organisations have denounced the ongoing violence against environmental activists and indigenous and rural community leaders in Honduras throughout 2020. We have more details in the following report.
The indigenous people's land defender and environmentalist Félix Vázquez has sparked increased concern among activists in Honduras, especially in La Paz department, where there is an ongoing territorial dispute.
We are two people who have defended the fundamental rights to territory and land, and they have also persecuted us, bringing in people to kill us.
The year 2020 has been violent for leaders of communities where the conflict is confused on hydroelectric and mining concessions without consultation with the population.
By this time last year, about 30% of the cases have been closed without an investigation, and about 20% of the cases have been investigated. The rest were in the process, which means that this persecutor's office to protect human rights defenders had no interest in investigating these cases.
Meanwhile, nearly 20 land defenders remain in prison as a result of new law that extend penalties for those who organize protests or occupations in the dispute territories.
Who suffer from this type of sanction, which is included in the penal code, are comrades who make a claim for the land, who make a claim in defense of the land, who make a claim for the defense of the environment.
Honduras has a prosecutor office to protect human rights defenders, but there are not investigations to punish the aggressor of land protection organizations.
There are over 7,000 rural workers being persecuted nationwide, and without doubt that number will increase. The situation is alarming. We have 8 comrades from Guapinol in prison who cannot freely defend themselves, and 4 from the community are missing.
Of the total number of people criminalized, 20% are indigenous and rural women. According to complaints from human rights organizations, the Public Prosecutor Office has only progressed with 20% of investigations into assassination and attacks on environmental and social leaders.
Medical personnel continue to be vaccinated against the coronavirus in Mexico after the country received a new shipment of vaccines. In addition, authorities reported on a new phase 3 clinical trial to test another vaccine to fight the pandemic. Our correspondent Eduardo Martinez has the details.
Doctors, nurses, logistics personnel and others related to the health emergency were summoned to be vaccinated against the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is responsible for COVID-19.
We waited so long for this vaccine and it finally arrived. And when they told us that we have to mobilize, we have to do it because of the condition of the vaccine. But I am happy because I am one of the first social workers who could come.
The vaccines administered in these and 4 other military installations are part of the second lot of doses developed by the United States company Pfizer and German firm BioNTech, which sent 42,900 doses to Mexico. Those being vaccinated must have been previously registered.
It is a strong feeling. We have seen many people die. Young people, adults, many colleagues have fallen ill. A colleague, for example, his uncle and grandfather are hospitalized in other hospitals. And yes, it is a relief, because we live with our families, and there is always the fear of infecting them.
The first step is to pass through a sanitary checkpoint, where temperatures are taken and people disinfect their hands. Next, they go to the registration section to enter the area designated for the administration of the vaccine. The first people to be vaccinated spoke to us about what it means to have this protection.
The process is conducted through coordination with hospitals. The hospital's coordination department sends the register to the district, and the authorities obviously draw up the list of those who will attend for the application of the vaccine today.
According to the Health Department's National Vaccination Plan against COVID-19, those who are being vaccinated now are on the front line of care for patients infected with the coronavirus.
And then it's very exasperating to go out onto the street and see so much traffic and so many people shopping and meeting each other. It makes me very angry to see us losing the possibility of caring for our families and taking care of people we don't know and who are thoughtless and are not at home.
While health authorities decreed places like the capital of the country and its metropolitan area as red zones and closed non-essential activities, mobility continues to be high, and gatherings for Christmas and New Year must be added to this. In the coming weeks, we will learn just how responsible Mexicans were in complying with the call to only gather with relatives who live in the same house.
Eduardo Martinez, teleSUR, Ciudad de México.
Businesses in the United Kingdom are preparing for changes to their operations as the UK's new economic agreement with the European Union comes into effect on Friday.
And obviously, unfortunately, that cost is going to be handed on to the consumer.
Short term, there may be a couple of weeks where suppliers are maybe just a little bit nervous, but long term, I'm very optimistic. I believe it's a huge opportunity for this country as a whole. I really do.
The dangers of being involved in long delays and receiving no revenue for those long delays is actually, or would actually, cost more money. It is a gamble on our part. We might have an awful lot of egg all over our face come next week, but I suspect not. I think it's going to be a very, very challenging week next week.
1,000 asylum seekers from a burned-out camp in Bosnia are now in limbo, struggling with freezing temperatures and snow, as efforts by local authorities to rehouse them have sparked protests from locals.
Despite all the problems caused by the abandonment of these people by an organization and by the decision of local authorities, we must show solidarity. We are here today with the Red Cross of the city of Bihać and the canton. We will try in the next few days to help these people as much as possible. We prepared 1,000 meals today. We are going to count the people to know how to act in the next few days. The Red Cross is helping us by making its volunteers available, and they have prepared tea too. So we are counting people in order to be able to prepare and distribute as soon as possible clothes, sleeping bags and, if we have the authorization, the tents too.
The United Nations African Union peacekeeping mission in Darfur is set to end on Thursday after 13 years stationed in the vast Sudanese region. Fighting erupted in Darfur in 2003 when ethnic minority rebels rose up against the Arab-dominated government in Khartoum, which responded by recruiting and arming a notorious militia known as the Janjaweed. A total of 300,000 people were killed and 2.5 million displaced, according to the United Nations. The mission said the Sudanese government will take over responsibility for the protection of civilians in the area following the withdrawal of peacekeeping forces. Darfur's bitter conflict has largely subsided in recent years, and long-time ruler Omar al-Bashir, who is wanted by the International Criminal Court for genocide and other alleged crimes in the western region, was ousted in a coup in 2018. However, the country's transitional government is said to be fragile, and ethnic and tribal clashes still flare up at times.
The last day for UNAMID is tonight at midnight. From January the 1st, UNAMID will not have any protection mandate. It will finish on the midnight of December 31st, 2020. There is a timetable, there is a schedule for the departure of different troops. The civilians will not have much to do. Until now, there is no full and comprehensive peace in Sudan, and for that reason, we are rejecting the departure of the UNAMID mission. For the UNAMID mission to leave, there should be full and comprehensive peace for all the Sudanese people, disarming the Janjaweed militias, and to try anyone who committed a crime in Sudan.
This Thursday marks 1 year since the World Health Organization was first alerted of an atypical case of pneumonia, which was later named COVID-19. Over the past 12 months, the virus has reached all corners of the world, infecting over 82 million people and causing 1.8 million deaths. The pandemic sparked an unprecedented paralysis of normal life for much of the world, with the fight to contain the spread of the virus ongoing. In record time and thanks to huge scientific efforts, several countries have started distributing and administering COVID-19 vaccines. This Wednesday, Bolivia signed an agreement to acquire over 5 million doses of Russia's Sputnik vaccine. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom and Argentina became the first countries to give the green light to the vaccine produced by the Swedish-British pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford, which can be kept at temperatures between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius, making it easier to transport and store, which could facilitate vaccination on a larger scale than the Pfizer-BioNTech shot, which is already being used in several countries. An ambitious goal of vaccinating 1 million New York residents with a COVID-19 vaccine in January was announced this Thursday by Mayor Bill de Blasio, who noted that meeting the target would require outside cooperation.
January 2021, we will vaccinate 1 million New Yorkers. 1 million people we will reach in January. This city can do it. The amazing healthcare professionals of this city are ready. We're going to set up new sites all over the city on top of the many, many sites that are already operational. We're going to expand from our hospitals and our clinics to community clinics to locations we'll set up all over the neighborhoods of the city. Our goal is to get to upwards of 250 locations citywide. This is going to be a massive effort. This is going to be part of the largest single vaccination effort in the history of New York City.
China has granted conditional market approval to a Sinopharm vaccine with a reported 79% efficacy rate against COVID-19, representing another major stride towards inoculating the world's largest population.
The National Medical Products Administration has approved the application for the registration of Sinopharm's inactivated vaccine on December 30. That is, yesterday afternoon, to be exact, last night, in accordance with the law and conditions, which is commonly referred to as conditional listing. I am convinced, and please be convinced, that the production capacity of COVID-19 vaccines can meet the demand of large-scale vaccination we have in China. One of the big prerequisites is definitely to make it free for everyone. That's a big prerequisite. After a series of strict review, verification, test, and data analysis in accordance with the law and procedures, it is concluded that the known and potential benefits of Sinopharm's new inactivated coronavirus vaccine are bigger than the known and potential risks, and it fully meets the preset requirements of conditional marketing standards.
Thousands gathered in the Chinese city of Wuhan this Thursday to celebrate New Year's Eve. The festivities were concentrated along the banks of the Yangtze River in the city which became known worldwide as the first epicenter of the novel coronavirus. While the world is struggling to control COVID-19, China has managed to control the pandemic rapidly and effectively. The first reported cases of the disease that came to be known as COVID-19 occurred in Wuhan in Hubei province in late December 2019, and China released the genomic sequence of the virus on January 10, 2020. The authorities immediately began enacting a raft of rigorous countermeasures later in the same month. Wuhan was placed under a strict lockdown that lasted 76 days. Within weeks, China had managed to test 9 million people for the virus in Wuhan. The effective measures have meant that, unlike much of the world, the Chinese population could get together this New Year's Eve to welcome in the new year. In India, rural workers continue to mobilise to reject the free agricultural laws promoted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. From the states of Rajasthan and Haryana in the north of the country, a group of farm workers is heading to the capital, New Delhi, after overcoming police barriers that prevented them from marching. Security forces used water cannons, leading several civilians to be wounded, as demonstrators blocked highways to peacefully express their discontent. The protests on the outskirts of New Delhi have been ongoing for several weeks, as workers warn that the new laws threaten the country's food sovereignty, benefiting the private sector to their detriment. And we've come to the end of this news brief, but we finish with images from Bangkok, where an eco-friendly fireworks display was held to celebrate New Year's Eve. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website and social media pages. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1...